Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this session about savings plans. I'm Pranesh Ramalingam, and I run product management for EC2 reserved instances and compute savings plans. I'm very excited to be here today along with Anthony Tambasco from Comcast, and really happy to talk to you about savings plans. So here's a brief agenda of what we're going to cover over the next 30 minutes or so. First, we're going to provide you a brief overview of savings plans. Next, we'll be talking about the features that we've launched over the last year on savings plans. Then we'll talk about how savings plans are helping customers. And finally, I'll be handing it over to Anthony, who will be telling you about the impact that savings plans have had at Comcast. Let me now provide a brief overview of savings plans, a new flexible pricing model that we launched in November 2019 that makes it really easy for you to save money on your compute usage. But before that, let me briefly give you an overview of the evolution of our pricing models that led to the launch of savings plans. We launched EC2 in 2006, and at that time, the only pricing model available on EC2 was the on-demand pricing model. The on-demand pricing model worked really well for customers that have short-term, spiky, and unpredictable workloads. It helped customers iterate faster and provided much-needed flexibility. With this pricing model, customers were able to take advantage of the scale of the cloud because it eliminated undifferentiated heavy lifting. This meant that customers could continuously experiment with their workloads and roll out changes faster. Customers no longer had to worry about the cost and complexity of purchasing, managing, and maintaining hardware. Instead, they could focus their energy on building their application and providing the end consumer the best possible experience. With time, customers told us that they wanted a more predictable pricing model that could help them save money on their usage. And that's how we came up with the reserved instance or RI pricing model. RIs offer significant savings, up to 72% off on demand prices, in exchange for making a commitment to a specific instance configuration. For example, if you make a 1-year commitment to M5.extra large running Linux on default tenancy in US East 1 region, then you can receive significant discounts when you run that instance configuration. RIs soon became one of the most popular purchasing options on EC2, and they helped customers save a lot of money, and our customers really like the significant savings that come with them. Over time, we made lots of changes to RIs based on customer feedback that made them a lot easier to use. In 2012, we launched the RI Marketplace, a platform that allows customers to sell their RIs that they no longer need. In 2016, we launched regional RIs. These RIs make it easy for customers to take advantage of the RIs discount in any AZ within a region. At the same time, we also launched convertible RIs. This type of RIs allows customers to change the RI during its term while still providing a significant savings. And then in 2017, we launched instance size flexibility on regional RIs. With this capability, customers could now take advantage of the regional RI discount across any size within the instance family, in addition to any AZ in a region. Our customers told us that they really liked all these changes on RIs. But even with all these changes, our customers were telling us they wanted an even easier way to save money for a couple of reasons. First, the scale at which our customers are operating on EC2 is unprecedented. Customers across all industry segments, ranging from financial services to energy, gaming, government, media, and entertainment, are all using AWS at a scale like never before. And AWS meets these customers' requirements for virtually each of their business needs. And customers were telling us that managing their spend at this scale became challenging with RIs, and they wanted an easier way to save money. Secondly, our customers told us that they wanted a way to save money even as their needs change. Our customers, like many of you listening to this session today, operate in very dynamic environments. Their needs change quite rapidly, say because they want to re-architect their application on a new instance type to meet their growth, or because they want to move their application to a different region because their business strategy has changed. Our customers were telling us that they wanted a way to save money while making changes to their environment easily without incurring management overhead. So in response to this customer feedback, last year we launched Savings Plans, a new flexible pricing model that offers significant savings on compute usage. Customers simply commit to a consistent amount of usage, say $10 an hour over 1 or 3 years, and in exchange, they receive a lower price for that usage. Savings plans offer the same significant savings that customers like with RIs, but with a lot more flexibility. There are two types of savings plans that customers can choose from. Compute savings plans, what you can see on the left of your screen, and EC2 instant savings plans, what you can see to the right of your screen. Compute savings plans provide the most amount of flexibility and offer up to 66% off on on-demand prices, just like convertible RIs. These allow customers to change their usage across instance family, so customers can easily move from, say, C5 to M5 instances if their instance requirements change. Or they can move across regions from, say, EU Ireland to EU London if they want to be closer to their users or if for data sovereignty reasons. Customers can also move across different operating systems, say from Windows to Linux, or they can move from dedicated instance tenancy to default tenancy instance. With compute savings plans, customers can also modernize their environment and move from EC2 to Fargate and Lambda. And as customers make any of these changes, they will automatically pay lower prices on their usage without any action on their side. EC2 instant savings plans offer our lowest prices in exchange for commitment to a particular family in a region. They offer up to 72% off on on-demand rates, just like standard RIs. With these savings plans, customers have the flexibility to change across sizes, OS, or tenancy within that family in a region. So say you commit to M5 in Northern Virginia, then you can now easily move from M5.XL to M5.4XL, or change from M5.XL Windows to Linux, or even modify from M5.XL dedicated instance to default tenancy and automatically continue to save money. And what we've been overwhelmingly hearing from customers since we launched savings plans is that savings plans are helping them innovate faster. The biggest benefit that customers are finding with savings plans is that it's making it a whole lot easier for customers to modernize and experiment easily. We offer instance types that are optimized to fit different use cases with varying combinations of CPU, storage, and networking capacity. EC2 offers the broadest and deepest selection of compute instances in the cloud with over 350 instances in 24 regions around the world. We offer the fastest processors in the cloud. We provide the most powerful GPU instances for machine learning and graphic workloads, as well as the lowest cost per inference instances in the cloud. In addition, we have new compute models including container services such as Amazon ECS, Amazon EKS, and AWS Fargate, and serverless options such as AWS Lambda. Our customers love the breadth of compute options at AWS, and they like that they're able to take advantage of the latest and greatest in technology. And savings plans apply to all this compute usage across instance types, serverless, and container usage automatically, which is helping customers take advantage of the latest compute from AWS and helping them innovate at a much faster clip and save money without incurring management overhead. Now let's turn our attention to what's new with savings plans in the last year. Over the last 12 months, we have been busy delivering new capabilities for you to make it even easier to save money with savings plans. Let's first take a look at how savings plans have expanded since launch. Earlier this year, we expanded savings plans to cover AWS Lambda. AWS Lambda is our serverless offering that lets customers run code without provisioning or managing servers and pay for only the compute time consumed. Now, savings plan commitments also apply to AWS Lambda usage, which means that customers can reduce their bill across EC2, Fargate, and Lambda, all with a single commitment. This is super helpful, especially for customers that are looking to migrate to Lambda, because their existing savings plan commitment will automatically apply to Lambda usage without any action from their side. Secondly, we also expanded savings plans to include EKS, or Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, on Fargate. EKS and Fargate make it straightforward to run Kubernetes-based applications on AWS by removing the need to provision and manage infrastructure pods. Now, your savings plan commitments also apply to this usage, which helps customers reduce their bill with a single commitment. We also launched Savings Plans recommendations for linked accounts in AWS Cost Explorer. Many customers purchase savings plans at their member or linked accounts to match their business needs or organization structure. So we made savings plans recommendations available at the member account level in AWS Cost Explorer. And these recommendations seek to maximize your savings at that member account level. You can see a screenshot of the recommendations page on AWS Cost Explorer. If you choose to view your recommendations at the linked account level, then you will be presented with recommendations with each of your linked accounts, which you can add easily to the cart from this page. Very recently, we launched the ability for customers to queue savings plans on a future date. Queuing savings plans makes it really easy for you to renew expiring RIs or savings plans with new savings plans well in advance and eliminates the need for just-in-time purchases. Additionally, now you can also buy savings plans to cover any workloads that you expect to go live in future. Here's a snapshot of the purchase page in AWS Cost Explorer. You can provide the date and time on which you'd like your savings plan to go active. So for example, if you choose the start date of your savings plans at a future date, say January 1st, 2021, you will be charged any upfront amounts associated with that plan on January 1st, 2021. And your plan will go active on that date. This makes it really easy for you to plan for purchases well ahead of time. Finally, and most recently, we launched alerts for your savings plans. Now you can be notified via email about upcoming events such as savings plans expiration, and also alerts for queued savings plans that will go active. You can customize to receive alerts 1, 7, or 30 days before those events. If you have already subscribed to RI expiration alerts, then you don't have to take any additional actions. And you will automatically start receiving savings plan alerts as well. So now let's dig in to understand how savings plans are helping our customers. Within a year, savings plans have quickly become an extremely popular purchasing option for customers. Customers tell us that savings plans are helping them modernize their application and architecture very easily. As customers change their underlying instance type to migrate to latest generation instances, or as they migrate to serverless, or as they move to containers, their savings plans are automatically reducing their bill, and this makes savings plans very attractive to customers. Customers are also telling us that they really like the flexibility offered by savings plans. Sometimes our customers' needs change, which requires them to make changes to their AWS environment, such as migration of instance types, or they may want to move their application halfway around the world to a different region. While customers carry out these migrations, with the flexibility of savings plans, they continue to save money. With the savings plan, customers continue to reduce their bill even as they change instance types, regions, or make any other changes without having to worry about making exchanges or modifications. All of this makes savings plans really easy to use. All customers have to do is make a single commitment, which applies to a wide variety of usage automatically and reduces management overhead. Here are a couple of testimonials about savings plans from Capital One and Infor that are using savings plans at scale. You will see that both these customers have benefited immensely with savings plans and have been able to save even more money on their bill with this new pricing model. Here's an example of how savings plans is helping an AWS customer. This is the usage pattern of Infor, a global enterprise software company. They were running a bunch of applications on EC2's M4 and R4 instance types. And earlier this year, they started down a migration path to the newer M5 and R5 instance types. These instance types offer better performance and also better price performance, which makes these instance types very attractive. As you may already know, when customers migrate their applications, they usually employ a phased approach to minimize risks and blast radius of impact to their end users. Infor uses compute savings plans, which help them reduce their bill on all of their usage, including the instance types on which the applications were originally deployed, and also the instance types on which the applications were being migrated into, all at the same time. As they continued with their migration, transitioning off the fourth generation instances to the fifth generation instances, they automatically saved money. In the case of RIs, this customer would have to monitor the migration constantly over a period of many months as applications migrated on a regular cadence, say daily, weekly, or monthly. They'd have to figure out which RIs to exchange, ascertain how much to exchange, and continuously perform those exchanges. But with savings plans, the customer had a hands off the wheel approach, and their savings plans automatically applied to their usage without any action needed from their users, which made it extremely easy for them to take advantage of the latest generation instance types. Similarly, there are plenty of other customers who are able to modernize their application to our latest generation instance types or are upgrading to serverless and containers while saving money with the help of savings plans. To talk more about how savings plans are benefiting them, it's my pleasure to invite Anthony Tambasco from Comcast. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you for that, Pranesh. As mentioned, my name is Anthony Tambasco, and I work on the Finops team at Comcast. Today I'm going to be talking to you about our use of savings plan and the benefits that we've experienced from it. But before I get into that, I'll give you some history about Comcast's use of AWS. So at Comcast, we have hundreds of linked accounts linked to a single payer account. We have thousands of developers logging in and using AWS on a daily basis. And at any moment, we have tens of thousands of instances running. This is spread out across multiple lines of business, either being our consumer products like X1 Flex or Digital Home, or our internal platforms and systems as well. And these teams are using dozens of AWS services. Now, in 2017, we set out to establish our Cloud Center of Excellence and set a lot of our governance within our public cloud environments. And one of those things that we did was we established a FinOps practice. And the goal of that FinOps practice was really to create a cost-conscious org by enabling the engineering teams to understand and optimize cost through tooling, process, and education, while also being a resource for finance and leadership to help them link business drivers to cost and usage. Now, one of the first initiatives that we did as a FinOps practice was establish a centralized RI program for the enterprise. So instead of where historically we would look to teams to make purchases for their usage, we wanted to essentially create a centralized umbrella based off of our usage trends across the company with RIs to aggressively increase our coverage. Before the program, we were running at about 40% RI coverage. And we had great successes RIs as we were able to hit our target of doubling that up to 80% within the first year. While also doing this, we maintained our RI utilization above 99%, which was great and a great success point. And some of the things that helped us really achieve this was, one of them was convertible RIs. So we would buy convertible RIs for maybe instances or use cases we were unsure about where they would evolve over the future. So we'd buy convertible RIs and make conversions when needed. Also, regional RIs was a great help here, as we would really just focus on instance families instead of worrying about which sizes were being used, as Amazon would work on flexing between the sizes and really provide a lot of benefits for us. Now, though, we did experience some pain points with RIs. Now I mentioned before about how we would centralize and try to buy those RIs to give everyone coverage. But for people that had specialized usage that really wasn't either by operating system, instance type, or regional, a lot of these teams didn't really experience the coverage of RIs, right? So and they got stuck playing on demand unless if they reached out to us to make specific purchases. The teams also had increased operational burden. So, my team was, constantly making RI modifications, conversions. We also had to, really be working closely with teams to understand their usage, and make sure that we were purchasing the correct RIs when they were scaling and making changes in their environments. Now, in the end of 2019, AWS announced Savings Plan, and we were like, that this is great. You know, really addresses some of those pain points I was just talking about. And so we immediately started working on an implementation plan to start using Savings Plan. And this graph up here is kind of a high level of the way that we are implementing Savings Plan within our organization. So, you know, we're taking our current RIs as they expire and moving them to Savings Plan. So the standard RIs that we have as they expire, they move over to EC2 instance plans. We're moving our convertibles over the Compute Savings Plan. And we've also, you know, re-looked at that 80% coverage and said, hey, why don't we provide coverage to those specialized usage cases and make some additional Compute Savings Plan purchases to expand our coverage and get up to above 90%. And also a thing to mention here too is for some people using zonal RIs and worried about capacity that you get from the zonal RIs. You know, one of the things that we're looking there is to make the on-demand capacity purchases along with the EC2 savings plan, you know, to provide teams the benefit of the savings plan as well as getting the capacity that they need as well. Now, you know, the big benefit of savings plan, as mentioned, is flexibility. And to talk about the advantages that we've seen from flexibility, you can kind of look at this graph I have up here showing the before state. Now that's, you know, before savings plan, and this is each block on there represents a different instance type throughout a month. Now those green blocks are the ones that received some type of coverage throughout the month, while the purple blocks received no coverage. Right? And you know, I mentioned we're at 80% coverage, and that's really because, you know, 20% of our usage was driving 80% of our costs. So we're really just focused on that 20%, while everyone else wasn't getting coverage. Now that the after graph is how it looks today with Savings Plan. So we've expanded the amount of instance types we're actually using, and expanded the amount of instance types that are receiving some type of coverage throughout the month as well. And you do see that there are some instance types that still did not receive coverage throughout the month, but they're really instance types that maybe only ran for an hour or less throughout the month and just didn't get the benefits of Savings Plan. And, you know, by expanding this coverage of instance types, they get, you know, we really get to accelerate experimentation, right? So we're always constantly trying to push teams to right size and optimize their workloads. And to, you know, use new instance types as they come out. So, you know, some of the big talking points recently has been AMD or Gravitron instances to try to get teams to maybe get that better performance at the lower cost. So now that teams are able to, you know, try out these instance types without paying on-demand costs, as when they speed up, when they spin them up, you know, Savings Plan is automatically moving over to these instance types, which is really great. And the thing that even makes it better is that when these teams identify an optimization that works, so if they were to try out AMD or Gravitron instances as mentioned, and their workload works with it, they can then migrate over to those instance types without having to wait, right? And then they migrate their workloads over, Savings Plan follows them over, and you know, my team doesn't have to work with them throughout that process as well. In the past, you know, with convertible RIs and everything, we were able to semi-do that. You know, what we would end up having to do is, you know, we'd either work with teams to time their right-sizing opportunity with an expiration of RIs and then buy new RIs for them, or we would wait for them to migrate over and then have to convert. Now all of that extra work is no longer needing to be done with Savings Plan. And, you know, and then, you know, it really reduces the risk, right, as well. For me, one of the things I'd hate is to, you know, pay for unused RI hours, you know, make that investment and then go to waste. But with Savings Plan, since it has so much flexibility, that risk is really decreased. Now, we even have a use case where we took one of our largest telemetry applications, and, you know, one of the things we push at Comcast is to use managed services. So they were running Elasticsearch on EC2, an opportunity came up to move over to AWS Elasticsearch, which is a managed service. And it isn't covered by Savings Plan, but we still pushed the team to move over to the managed Elasticsearch service. They made that move, and then the Savings Plan that was in their accounts, we were just able to easily redistribute to other use cases at Comcast. Now up on the screen is this graph from, this is showing our EC2 coverage from 2017 up until a couple months ago. The purple bars are RI hours, green is on demand, and the orange is Savings Plan, and the line is our coverage percentage. Now you can see in the beginning, when we have this big initial jump, that was the implementation of our enterprise RI program, where we went from 40% up to 80%. And then you see for about the 2 years, we kind of remained flat, which a little bit of changes of that 80% throughout the time. And then at the end of 2019, when we made our first Savings Plan purchase in December, you see as we've moved that coverage from 80% up above 90%. The other thing you're seeing in this graph is you're seeing that the orange, eating away at some more of that on demand, which is great. And as well as you see the purple, which is the RI hours, decreasing as those expire, and then being replaced with Savings Plan hours. And the great thing about increasing your coverage is it helps decrease your cost. So recently we've been able to grow our EC2 usage while keeping around the same spend, and that's because we've been able to save an additional 12% per VCPU hour with that increased coverage from Savings Plan, which has been a great benefit to the teams, and of course our finance is always happy with that as well. Now to wrap things up, I'm just going to talk about some of the best practices that we follow at Comcast in regards to Savings Plan. The first one is teams should set targets and track against them. So as I mentioned, we had an RI coverage target of 80%, and then we increased that to 90% with Savings Plan. This is something that we are constantly tracking against throughout the year. And that leads into my second point, but this needs to be a continuous process. Teams shouldn't look to just make a big purchase and then kind of walk away. This is something you should always be evaluating and looking at. So at Comcast, we make our purchases on a monthly basis. So throughout the month, we are in feedback with teams about their usage, as well as looking at leveraging the cost and usage report to see EC2 usage by purchase type, by instance type, to understand our coverage, understand where we need new purchases, or also always evaluating what RIs are expiring, so that we can use the new queue system with Savings Plan to tee up purchases for the next month, and make that month so always keep our flat coverage or grow our coverage while our usage changes. Now that sums up my talk. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing that, Anthony. With that, we have come to an end to the session. Please remember to fill out the session survey. Hopefully you've learned more about savings plans from this session. Thank you, and stay safe.